Welcome to Paris, France. Center court here at Roland Garros. A late arriving crowd on this Friday morning as we anticipate the semifinal match between two Americans, Andre Agassi seated 11th, and the defending champion Jim Courier. Jim Courier, who has stolen the thunder from Agassi. Agassi, always the star in the earlier days as they grew up at the Bollettieri Tennis Academy. And Courier currently not only the defending French champion, he's won the Australian this year. He's on a 21 match winning streak. We're joined by Bud Collins, borrowed from the Boston Globe. Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour, Richard et Jean.
And Jean McEnroe, who has competed here both in singles and in doubles. We borrow you from the tour, and you've played both men. You have your analysis as to the key to this match.
Well, Dick, I think it's going to come down to three major points. One is who's going to dictate the points from the baseline. Number two, who wins more free points? And by that, I mean who wins more points, for example, off their first serve. And number three, which is the X factor, is the mental toughness. And here's where I think Jim Courier has the edge. Based on last year's result here, winning the Australian Open, his confidence is extremely high. Andre's got to be second-guessing himself a little bit. That's why I'm going to take Jim Courier in this match, although I'm by no means counting Andre out.
All right, Agassi, your doubles partner, and you've been watching Agassi and also always an eye out, I know, Mr. Collins, for the sculpture of this great artistic city.
Mais oui, you know, whenever I think of Andre Agassi, I think of the great French sculptor, Auguste Rodin, both men with great hands.
Oh, yes.
And Rodin with that thinker, but that's not the context I think in. I think of him and his sculpture, The Gate of Hell, because I believe this tournament is the gate of hell for Andre Agassi. 2 straight final losses, and today's match is tantamount to another final because I think the winner goes on to the championship. So this weighs heavily on Andre. He said it has bothered him for months and months and months, and we'll just see if once again this tournament is the gate of hell.
And there is Andre Agassi as he tunes up the 22-year-old from Las Vegas, and Bud is tripped fairly easy to the semifinals.
Yeah, a couple of left-handers to start out with. Javier Fran of Argentina, Gianluca Pozzi of Italy, and then a little tough match with Goran Pirpic, the Croatian, 7-6 tiebreaker. Emilio Sanchez was remarkably easy for him, and here was a match that really made him feel good because of the young lions, Courier, Chang, Sampras, Agassi. Well, he knocks off Pete Sampras, whom he lost that 1990 U.S. Open final to.
And Jim Courier, the defending champion.
Jim also marched through pretty well. Young Swede Niklas Kroon, who was a qualifier. Tough two guys right there. Thomas Muster, a semifinalist here 2 years ago, and Alberto Mancini, the muscular Argentine. Look at that, a bagel in the third set. Then watch out for this kid, 17-year-old Andrei Medvedev, a Russian, and then Goran Ivanisevic, who caught Jim a little anxious winning that third set. They knew they probably couldn't finish the match. Darkness coming in, and Jim tried to rush. But the next day, he took out Ivanisevic, even though trailing 4-1 in the fourth set.
It's the first match of this semifinal day, so the crowd still filing in to Roland Garros on a cool day, 57 degrees at midday, wind out of the north, and rain not only a possibility, it is expected today. Head-to-head couldn't be closer. They played 8 times professionally. Each has won 4, and this will be the 4th consecutive year they played here at the French Open. Courier really his breakthrough in '89 when he beat Agassi over on court 1. Agassi answered in '90, and then last year in the final, it was Courier rallying from 2-1 down to win the French title. Courier will open this semifinal match.
Ready? Difficult conditions to start the match under, Dick. Crowd just filing in, and the sense of anticipation is not really there yet.
And immediately Courier backs off. Movement in the background behind Agassi. The court itself looks heavy. The day gray and misty. Does that favor either Agassi or Courier?
I don't see it favoring one or the other at this point. It's sort of a wait-and-see attitude on both players' part to see what they bring out.
15-0.
I see both of the players starting a little bit more defensively than you might expect. Take a bit of a wait-and-see attitude and see what develops from there, even though they both have their own game plans.
And both are good counter punchers anyway. Couple of big serves by Courier, 30 love.
That's exactly what Andre Agassi
Toronto
does not
serve.
want to happen. Have Jim Courier win a lot of free points off the first serve.
Oh, that ball didn't bounce at all.
Toronto against.
That was a nice shot by Andre Agassi, but that was a court that caused that ball not to come up, and they need to do something about that if that's the case, because that's very unusual for here. The balls have been bouncing extremely high throughout the week.
Unlike, say, 7-8 years ago when you were involved in the finals.
That's correct.
Courier
Toronto.
from Dade City, Florida. He's 21, big baseball fan. His favorite team, the Cincinnati Reds. He grew up as a promising baseball star, a shortstop, left-handed hitter, and credits his left-handed training as a batter with that two-fisted left-handed backhand in tennis. A slugger. Another deep bounce.
There's no question that Jim Courier's backhand looks more like a baseball swing than any backhand swing I've ever seen in tennis. It's very interesting to watch.
And the opening game to Jim Courier. The semifinals on a gray Friday in Paris are underway. Welcome back to center court. Man in charge in the chair from Australia, Richard Ings.
Good umpire. I don't know how John might feel about that, but I've always thought he was pretty good.
Well, I may have to respectfully disagree on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Very
I know
respectfully.
you and he have had some prolonged conversations at the chair. He was a teenager when he started in the big time. Very precocious.
Consider.
That's what both players are going to be waiting for their opportunity to get a short ball and then attack.
Courier well back of the baseline. 30 low. And that reflects on last year's championship when Jim Courier early in the match played right on the baseline, lost the first set, was down a break in the second. Then came the rain and he moved back and moved to the title.
At the advice of his coach, Jose Garris, they huddled in the locker room.
That's some free points here for Agassi. 40 low.
As expected, both players are a little tight right now. Haven't settled into their game plan or feel really comfortable out there. It's not helping that only half the people are here at this point. And that it's 57 degrees, windy, and looks like rain. Those are difficult conditions to play under.
Similar to a year ago in the final.
Agassi holds it love, 1-all.
Where would you position yourself to receive Agassi's serve, John?
Well, I naturally like to stand in closer, and I like to try to attack more off the serve, so I would stand in closer. And as you can see, Andre goes for a lot less on his serve than Jim does. Jim's got a much heavier serve, and what I mean by heavy is that it kicks up and comes at you harder than almost any other serve in the business, especially his second serve. First ace of the match.
Agassi checking this ball mark. And Ing says, I saw it good.
Look good from up here.
Ace and his first double fault. They're 2-2 on clay, 4-4 total in their matchups as pros. Agassi saying, my accomplishments just don't live up to my tennis game. I'm making big money without winning big, the big event. This is one of them. Get a chance to chat with Agassi before the match, John.
Well, last night I talked with Andre and early this morning, and his game plan is a little bit different than it may have been against Jim in the past. His idea this time is to try to hit some low, flat balls and entice Jim maybe to come to net and not give him the looping shots where Jim can take control of the point. That's where he felt he was hurt by Jim last year.
Just long.
He realizes that Jim has an edge on the serve, and then he also has an edge in fitness and stamina. But he feels like if he can dictate the play, even if it went 4 or 5 sets, that Jim would be running a lot more than Andre would be in a point, a la Jimmy Connors when he was at his best. Anytime you watch Jimmy play, it seemed like the other guy was running 3 or 4 times as much. Oh!
Just long, and Agassi a bit unlucky in that game. A couple of near misses. The call's going to Courier. You're watching the 1992 French Open Championship presented by Diet Coke. Welcome back after some discussion and a check of the mark. Richard Ings has overruled. That last point did hit the line, he says, and so they replay it at 40-15.
Cat on to turn.
40-30.
Well, we were talking about Andre's game plan, and Jim's got a slightly different game plan. He's coming in as #1 player in the world, and his attitude is Andre's going to have to come out and beat me. Talking with Jose Higueras and Brad Stein as coaches, they have more of a wait-and-see attitude, just more of a see what develops attitude, thinking that Jim has more weapons than Andre does overall.
Cat on turn.
It seemed to me, they seemed to me talking with both players that Andre had a more specific game plan than Jim did. Jim's going to sort of come out and see what happens as the match progresses, where Andre really had a definite idea of what he wanted to do.
Courier's second double fault. He thought he had already won this game.
Avantage, Courier.
Andre also felt that Jim was going to try to zero in on his backhand, as he put it. And I haven't seen that to this point. Jim looks like he's mixing up his shots and actually going more towards the forehand to try to stretch him out wide, maybe to set him up later down the road.
Game to Courier. No controversy on that one. Plenty long. So Courier, for the second time, goes to his resting spot with a 2-1 lead.
Ever color coordinated. Nick Bollettieri with lenses and jacket. He was the guru for both these kids when they were at Bollettieri's Tennis Academy in Bradenton, Florida. And there was a breakup because Sergio Cruz, who was coaching Jim then, one of Nick's guys, he and Jim broke off. They felt that Nick wasn't giving Jim enough attention. There was some hard feeling at the time. That's been patched. And just before the match, I talked to Nick. He said, this is a 50-50 match. He said, I can see either player winning it.
But it was at that point that Courier felt he was second best, and the only way he was going to be treated like a number one is to break ranks.
Well, it looks like he made the right decision.
First of our semifinal matches, Henri Leconte and Peter Korda will meet in the second affair. And of course, that will attract a huge crowd. French on this Friday, late arriving. Caught the outside of the line. 30 love.
30-0.
Here's an example of Andre and Jim both trying to get in charge and in front of the point. And here Andre hits a great forehand on the line winner. I don't think he meant to cut it that close, though. Very strange atmosphere so far in the beginning of this match. It's not helping either player.
It's a bit eerie.
Agassi has not had a great season to this point. 21-8. He did win one tournament on clay in Atlanta, his 15th career title. Still looking for his initial Grand Slam trophy. Courier has been brilliant. Number one in the world now. He's lost only 5 times, 47 matches this year. And Courier is the first American number one on the computer since John McEnroe in 1985.
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
Not so long ago. You're still playing Davis Cup. You're still earning a living, John.
That's right. I'm still getting by.
Wait till that big check from NBC comes in. Now that Carson's gone, wow.
I better start playing some more tournaments.
Don't spend it all on the Faubourg Saint-Honoré.
Nice slice backhand by Courier. You don't see that a lot from him to set up that ripping cross court.
Well, this is an example of where Jim has improved his game so much. As you said, Dick, he uses a slice there, which he didn't use even a year and a half ago. And then he rips a cross-court backhand winner. His game is diversified so much more than people realize.
There was that line drive base hit of his, that left-handed shot for the winner.
Rod Carew double.
From 40-15 to deuce.
Here's Jim's slice backhand, a very short backswing. Now he's ready to step into this next one and come over. There's the baseball swing you were talking about.
Really compact. Andre.
Serve and volley. Mark the time. But Bollettieri has said, watch out for Andre's volley. He thinks Andre is a better volleyer than Courier. What do you think of that? You played doubles with him.
Well, I think Andre's improved his volley greatly, but I also think Jim Courier has improved his volley greatly, too. So I don't know if there's an edge on either players, but I think it's key that both players use it occasionally in this match. That was a very smart time to use it. He had just played a couple of erratic points and came in and took a chance there, and that was a very well-calculated chance. The swinging volley, though, I'm not so sure about.
When you use such a minimal hand for Agassi as he swats that from behind his back, minimal effort on your talented volleys, and Agassi firing away full swing. Oh, crawled up the tape and fell back on Agassi's side. Second deuce.
Well, what it tells me is that he's not totally comfortable yet with the volley. To go for a swinging volley at that point seemed a bit strange. It seemed like he had a good opportunity to just punch the volley away. It worked out in that case, but that's a high-risk volley.
He likes that one, though, doesn't he?
It sure looks good when it works.
Avantage, Agassi.
What I notice here is that both players are trying to hit the ball flatter. There's Andre hitting a pretty flat forehand inside out and then coming back with the backhand down the line with just enough top to pull it inside the court.
God, do you think the flat stroke will come back?
Actually, I do think it will.
On clay even. Fourth game point for Agassi. And he double faults for the first time.
I was reading Tennis Magazine last month, and it talked about the fact that Becker-Steek Wimbledon final last year only went 9 minutes, and the Agassi. I'll wait and finish after this point.
Fifth game point, Agassi.
9 minutes playing time.
9 minutes of total playing time, whereas the Agassi-Courier match had 15 minutes, an hour of playing time on clay. My match with Bjorn Borg in the 1980 finals on grass had 12 minutes an hour of playing time, which is pretty much the same as last year's Agassi-Courier final, which tells me they are hitting the ball a lot flatter and going for a lot more.
Agassi.
Game to Agassi, 2-0. But John McEnroe in 80, you weren't using one of these bludgeons. You were using the Woody, weren't you?
We had the wood rackets still back then, the old relics. But certainly on grass, I think it made for more exciting tennis. Now you see total hit-miss tennis on grass, and clay has actually seemed to become a lot more exciting. Watching two guys play like this is really enjoyable on clay now, whereas take nothing away from the great clay quarters of the 70s, for example, Solomon, Dibbs, Vilas, Borg, but those matches could last all day and night.
Without much variety.
It was really a fitness test, mental and physical fitness test, but you didn't see a whole lot of diversity in stroke production.
Center.
Through their first 5 matches here at Roland Garros, those numbers quite even. Each have lost only 1 set. Each look at games lost 48-47, and their matches about 2 hours in length. But most of those in straight sets for the 5.
Well, a 2-hour match on clay is getting the job done pretty quickly.
Yeah, when you punch in here at Roland Garros, best 3 of 5, you figure you're going to be out here 3 hours or more, don't you?
Bring your lunch.
Cameron Kent.
Agassi's report card on clay this year, 13-3. And Courier, perfect 11-0. Added on Courier's winning streak of 21 matches. That equals the best consecutive string by a man on the tour in the last 2 years. Edberg had 21 match streaks each of the last 2 seasons.
The coaching team in the middle, Jose Garris, and on the right of your screen, Brad Stein for Courier.
Courier.
Game to Courier. They're on serve 3-2 in the opening set.
Courier mène par 3 jeux à 2.
Masterminds in the Jim Courier camp, Messrs. Garris and Stein.
Apparently Nike's been around them recently.
Garris has done some good things for American tennis, hasn't he, Bud?
Well, he has. It's interesting. The only 2 Americans who have won, men that is, the championship within the last ice age anyway, Chang and Courier, and he coached them both.
Net cord throwing off the timing of Agassi.
Footing appears slick out there. Andre just tripped. It's already happened a couple times on both players' parts. It's very difficult to move right now, it appears.
First time the server has not won the first point of the game.
Difficult footing.
Courier thought it was long.
So did I.
Too late now.
Yep. This young man is much better prepared than he's ever been for the French Open. It used to seem that he parachuted out of the plane onto the courts. Didn't practice during the tournament in 1990. And last year, he nearly lost in the first round to Marc Rosset. The year before, he nearly lost in the first round to Martin Wustenholm. But he has been coasting. And, of course, Courier beat him. 89 in the third round.
Here's one of the high looping shots Andre likes to utilize. Great backhand down the line. No, that was a deep shot by Andre Agassi. Just too good. What's interesting about his preparation, Bud, is that he practiced a week before the fight on hard courts back at his home in Las Vegas.
Two break points for Jim Courier, the first of the match.
I don't personally know one player in the history of tennis that practiced on hard courts the week before the French Open.
At least he practiced.
That's true.
How much time would you give yourself getting ready for clay?
I'd give myself 4 to 6 weeks.
Agassi pouncing on a short ball.
34.
And you got to do that today.
Andre's serve is mainly used as just getting the point started. He's not doing too much with it, but his backhand's a can be one heck of a weapon.
That was a big serve as he kicked it wide and knocks away two
Counter.
chances from Jim Courier to own a lead here in the first set.
He was such a sensation here in 1988, going all the way to the semifinals. Finally running out of fuel against Mats Wilander, the champion. 6-love in the 5th, but what a match it was until then.
And with that touch shot, Courier has another break chance.
Avantage, Courier.
It's interesting. Jim Courier strings his rackets extremely tightly, so he has a slightly different drop shot than you may see, but it's equally as effective as any I've seen recently. Not only on that shot, but also the drop volley.
Really a chop, wasn't it?
A terrific defensive effort by Courier, only to see the winner
Égalité.
from the other side.
I think Jim Courier should be happy, though. He made Andre win this point. He forced up a reasonable lob and made Andre hit another shot, and that's really what both players want to do, not make any unforced errors.
Oh, Andre Agassi denying 3 break points. Now a 4th chance earned by Courier.
Avantage, Courier.
This is just some great offensive tennis from Jim Courier. Almost a full swinging half volley, and then a volley into the open court. A good time to try to be aggressive.
A point from a 4-2 lead.
Promesas.
I think in the end, that's what's going to separate the two players here. The mental toughness that Courier's exhibited the past year.
Égalité.
Well, sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense, and both players did that each of the last 2 points. First Jim at deuce, and then Andre down break point for the 4th time. Plays a very strong point as well.
Well, serving volley has been a good friend, Andre.
Avantage, Agassi.
This is the 2nd time in the match that Andre's tried to serve and volley, and both times he's been successful with it. Here he has probably the best backhand overhead in the game right now. Look how well he snaps at this backhand.
And finally is at a game point. Andre Agassi, 3-all. He knocked away 4 chances. Courier to break.
3 jeux pas 2.
People have questioned his weightlifting as mainly because it seems to be the only thing he does besides play tennis. But I think what you saw in the last 2 points with the backhand overhead and then the regular overhead is an example where it really has helped him. His strength up above is maybe unparalleled in tennis right now.
Well, his strength coach, Gil Reyes, is seated behind Nick Bollettieri.
I don't question using weightlifting as a form of improved fitness, but I would also recommend him do a little bit more of here's Gil Reyes.
John, I
here.
wonder why the reporters are always polite to Gil.
Can't imagine.
Are those arms or thighs there in front of him? Former strength coach at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Just to finish my other point, I would like to see Andre just do a little bit more work cardiovascularly. And then that package would just be really incredible.
Third
Center
double
point.
fault. Well, Courier, it may be weighing in the back of his mind the 4 break points that he owned in the last game.
On the other side of the coin, you have Jim Courier, who after a best of 5 set match goes out for a run after the match and then practices again.
He's been running over in the Bois de Boulogne nearby.
Good idea by Andre Agassi. Maybe just went for a little too much there. Very smart ploy to try there. Love 15, love 30 could have been a big boost for him.
Well, that's right out of the McEnroe songbook. Attack the second serve.
Little top spin off the backhand side.
Toronto, Kansas.
What's all the more impressive about this backhand top spin lob winner is the fact that it's quite windy out right now, and to be able to control it that way is very, very good.
And that wind that carried it wide. Pretty all.
I've never seen Andre work a point better. Have you, John?
I'm sorry, Bud, I didn't
Worked
hear
that point so well.
That was a great point. Actually, it doesn't look too windy right now if you look at that flag. I thought I saw during that point another bad bounce, and this is surprising for this court. Usually you don't see as many bad bounces in center court at Roland Garros. Andre handled it well, though. Bounced real low, he came back. Great all-around point.
Wow.
Toronto.
That's what neither player wants to happen, is get behind in the point off the serve. Jim Courier with a very underrated serve.
Jim Courier is very fond of Paris. It was here 5 years ago that he won the juniors doubles with Jonathan Stark. He's learned to speak French and has been using it throughout this tournament. The 1992 French Open Championship on NBC, presented by Diet Coke. No breaks of serve. Agassi, 3-4. Tough game, the last one on serve for Agassi. Found 4 break points, but survived the game.
I thought the trying to come in at love 15 off the second serve was a good ploy. The second one at 30-40 looked a little more desperate.
Kansas.
Good to have John Carson with us. Johnny said that as soon as he left the Tonight Show, he was going to head to Europe. He'll be not only here for the finals on Sunday, but go on to Wimbledon for the Wimbledon fortnight. Good to have him aboard.
I see Sergio Tacchini got to him. Probably Chino Marquez.
Toronto.
You ever on the Carson Show, John?
Actually, I just went on for the first and only time on May 11th, I believe, or actually back in April. It was my pleasure to go on, watching Johnny all those years. actually,
time after he wasn't there a little residential transaction?
Yeah, I was going to say he sold me his house in California back in 1985.
Did the roof leak?
The roof didn't. Here's an absolutely huge forehand coming up by Jim Courier. This is what you call going for broke. Just inside the line.
He'll never go broke if he keeps it up, though.
The roof didn't leak, Bud, but the TV only worked 1 hour a day.
Late at night, huh? Is it true that tennis lessons were part of the deal, that he wanted you to teach him some tennis?
Yeah, he did put it in the contract. I had to oblige him.
Toronto.
Second double fault for Agassi.
Johnny Carson is in excellent condition for a young man of his age. Now, this is a big game for Andre Agassi. He doesn't want to get behind a set here against Jim Courier with the confidence he's got.
Serve and volley there at 30
Yeah, and he was right in position to make that, too.
He just looks to me like he's becoming a little bit unglued in terms of being a little bit overly aggressive at this point.
Courier forcing the play and has his 5th break point.
The other factor is that I believe it's more important for Andre how much the crowd gets into it. And to this point, the crowd has virtually said nothing. And Jim Courier could be rain or shine or people or no people. He seems to take it in a more professional manner. Andre's more emotional.
Yeah, especially the young fans. And, of course, Wednesday, their day, and no school in the afternoon in Paris on Wednesdays. But this crowd, very quiet. It's wide, and there's the first break of this match as Jim Courier takes the lead, 5-3, and now can serve for the opening set.
Andre feeds so well off the crowd, and he's just not getting anything in return right now.
Few voices now from the center court that will seat up to 18,000, about 2/3 full at the moment.
What a 1-2 punch.
Can't serve.
Jim Courier does something very interesting on his serve. He hits his serve and he jumps over about 3 or 4 feet to prepare to run around his backhand. And because he does that, he was allowed to do what he just did. He ran around his backhand and hit that great inside-out winner.
Stefan Franson in the background, the supervisor for this match, seated at courtside.
Toronto.
2 points from the set. Jim Courier. Is Agassi thinking?
Maybe if Andre loses his first set, he should consider going to the pirate look.
I was wondering if you are the white cap influence, John, in playing doubles. Courier started wearing a white cap here, but Andre, as you mentioned, looked like a refugee from a cast of the Pirates of Penzance earlier in the tournament. The neckerchief wrapped around his head.
2 set point for Jim Courier. Still sporting the goatee, however, is Agassi, although we noticed, John, you have shaved yours.
I gave up on it, Dick.
Good.
Oh?
Well, no,
What-
see,
what-
you don't. On you, it's becoming, Mr. Collins.
What do you really think?
And the first set to Jim Courier, the defending French Open champion, owns the first set 6-3. A look at the first set statistics, very even, but one that is not showing number is that Courier had 5 break points, converted 1 to win the set. Agassi did not have a break point.
Although you look at these statistics, you don't see much difference. I think the big difference is that Andre just wasn't able to put that much pressure on Jim Courier. Because of that, we see the score 6-3.
Now let's see if Agassi adopts a new strategy here in the second set. You heard him say first serve, not happy. Well, the reputation that Agassi has is that once he's ahead, he's double tough. But perhaps his emotions more fragile than those of Courier.
Well, they certainly are, but maybe he could look back to the French Open 3 years ago when he came back from a first set loss and dominated Courier the last 3 sets.
Toronto Center.
Dick, I'm sorry, that was 2 years ago. Here's a ball that may have been going out that Andre decided to hit anyway and hit for a winner cross court.
You have to hit that ball, don't you?
I think you have to hit the ball in that case, yeah, especially when you have as good a backhand overhead as Andre does. Why not?
Didn't want to hit this.
And Courier did such a great job of keeping the point alive and then misses a relatively easy backhand. 40 love.
What Andre's got to get back to doing is playing more of a percentage style of tennis, making Jim Courier win more points instead of giving him too many free points. And at least in this game, he's done so. Here's 2 examples, some beautiful touch on Jim Courier's part. First, he slices the backhand cross-court a little short. Andre probably should have put that away, but there is some beautiful cross-court touch on the forehand.
Game to Agassi. The 92 French Open semifinals presented by Diet Coke. Welcome back to Paris. Dick Enberg with John McEnroe and Bud Collins. Chris Everett will be joining us later. The streak is on for Courier. 21 match wins in a row going back to Tokyo. Earlier this season, 12 straight French Open matches. He has won 11 Grand Slams in a row. Of course, he won the Australian, and 11 straight on clay, including the Rome title a few weeks ago.
Don't get excited yet, though. The men's record is 50 in a row by Guillermo Vilas in 1977.
Lendl was over 40.
44. Yeah, he really challenged it.
And of course, for the women, our colleague Chris Everett, 125 straight on clay.
Well, I don't think that will ever be even close to being surpassed. But what's interesting about those stats we just saw was the fact that what that tells you is that confidence breeds mental toughness. And what we talked about earlier was what I consider to be an advantage on Courier's side. Let me watch the end of this point first. As he misses a fairly easy forehand. That the difference between Andre and Jib right now is the fact that he has to have more confidence because of those results. And Andre, despite the fact that he is extremely confident, when it gets deep down into maybe a crucial point, doesn't have those results to fall back on.
And Courier exuded confidence as we chatted with him the other day.
Sure did, didn't he?
For 21, just to look into his eyes and say, this fella thinks he can win them all. Hate to bring up the match because you've already documented it, John, that the 84 loss here to Ivan Lendl in the finals was your toughest defeat ever in a great career. But on the other side, that was Lendl's first Grand Slam. He, like Agassi, had been struggling getting to the finals. Everyone was saying Lendl will never win the big one. Then he wins the French, and boom, did he take off. So Agassi sitting in that same perch needs to win the first major.
They said Lendl would never win a big one. Look how many he won after that won that first title. So I opened the door for him, so he owes me something.
Checks in the mail, John.
Ooh. Here's Andre coming in, attacking more than we usually see him. Nice volley cross court, and Courier's not going to give up on it. Great effort there, but just came up a little short. This could be a big confidence boost to Andre, though, if he could get an early break here.
30 all.
He's got something out of playing doubles with McEnroe, I think. Attack that second serve.
Andre will be a double specialist before we know it. Comes in off the serve. Great volley, put away.
Andre Agassi's first break point of the match.
That's the key to volley. Make sure you're moving forward when you hit it.
What a kicker serve.
He's not going to be happy with that forehand, though. He really should have put that back in play and forced Jim to hit another volley. Interestingly enough, Andre's won 13 of 15 points at net so far. Normally, he doesn't even come into net that much in a whole match.
Well, part of his strategy. Chance to take the early lead here in the second set. Lost.
Avantage Agassi.
Double fold number 4 and a second break point for Andre Agassi.
Will he come in again on the serve? This might be a new trend.
We're having trouble with his first serve here in the second set. Oh my.
Égalité.
That hurts. Second serve.
That's what they call in tennis lingo a choke.
A lot of lingos.
99 times out of 100, Andre Agassi would not miss that return.
Avantage Courier.
And the strength of Agassi's game is that return of service. Courier had 2 break points against him. It's 1-all. A reminder tonight, the NBA's top 2 teams in the finals from Chicago Stadium. French Open Championship. Tomorrow, the women's final. Monica Seles and Steffi Graf both have won the French twice. And then on Sunday, the men's championship. Live from the Roland Garros.
Just when you thought you'd seen everything from Michael Jordan, he scores 35 points in the first half.
Hitting those 3-pointers.
Hitting 3-pointers, no less.
Wrong-footed Agassi.
What I found surprising here was that he tried to do so much with that ball. Maybe he should have just been a little bit more patient. He put himself out of position, and Courier made him pay for it. Plus, he may have pulled a muscle in the process.
Oh, that ball really skidded low. That slice backhand from Courier. Court is dead, and you can see it by the players unable to really commit themselves to clean slides into their shots. They're just kind of starting a slide, and then it grabs and they stumble. That was a wicked slice for Courier.
Toronto.
30-all.
I don't believe it rained here in Paris last night. Were you guys up late enough to see whether it rained in the early hours?
Not I.
Good return from Courier, and with it,
Toronto.
chance to break Agassi's serve.
That's got to be a morale drainer when you hit a pretty good first serve out wide and the guy, your opponent, rips it for a winner cross court. Maybe why he thinks he has to serve and volley so much more.
Oh, and he double faults at game point. Courier has broken here in the second set. He leads by a set. The man on a mission in Paris, Jim Courier. And it's not talked about much, but with the Australian Open Championship already in hand, Courier with a win, this French would be halfway to the Grand Slam, headed toward Wimbledon. He's up a set and up a break in this semifinal match against his longtime opponent, Andre Agassi.
Well, certainly with his style of play, it will be most difficult for Jim Courier to win at Wimbledon. But with his confidence, his preparation, and his desire to win at this time, you certainly can't count him out.
No, he was a quarterfinalist last year. He had a set point against the champion, Stich, in the first set.
Ooh. That serve will pay dividends in the grass. His second ace.
Toronto center.
It looks to me like Andre Agassi has slowed up measurably in his movement. Maybe he did pull a little something on that previous game when he slid on the line. He doesn't seem to be very comfortable out there at all.
Not lively. There's just no energy.
What must he do, John? He's got to pull himself together here.
Well, he certainly does. He just does not seem to be mentally in this match right now. He's letting it slip away right now. To get 2 sets down against Jim Courier would be almost suicidal at this point. He needs to get back to the basics is what he needs to do, and at least make Courier, for starters, win his points.
What a shot. Courier holds it love, leads 3-1 in the second.
Something that Jim Courier is very underrated with is his touch. Look at this drop volley here.
Now he scored on one of each, forehand and backhand.
What's smart, though, is he realizes the court is playing extremely heavy. the balls have been bouncing very low, and because of that, he's utilizing that, which you don't really see Andre doing as much. It just seems like he's way more into the match than Andre.
Wallace overhead.
Well, there's no question that Andre Agassi has got one of the best overheads in the game. Here's another example of it. What I don't like, though, is the fact that he seems to be increasingly coming in without any sense of real purpose.
Gotta cut down on those. Those are gimmies.
His unforced errors have gone up tremendously in the last 6 games. From 3-all in the first set to now, it's 2 totally different matches. Here's a very well-played point by Andre. As hard as he's hitting the ball, this is not really going for too much for him. He did give Jim one last opportunity to hit that winner, which he probably wasn't too thrilled about, but fortunately hit a good volley behind it.
One of those free points you talked about in the opening. But you also talked about the X factor, John McEnroe, and Courier has displayed that to this stage of the match.
No question about that. He's got the definite edge there.
Point of the match, Jim Courier.
You almost have to just sit back and watch this. Incredible play from both sides. Here's an unexpected drop shot. Great drop shot in return, but then even to top that, another great drop shot cross court. Here comes Andre Wood. Probably thought he hit a winner there, only to see it go back behind him.
And Andre Agassi, that's probably his best game in this entire match. As the French Open from Paris, presented by Diet Coke. Puente and Celia Cruz, followed by an all-new late night with David Lenerman.
Up in the stands, hit Costanza board. I thought you'd catch it.
Andre Agassi in a hole, down a set, down a break here in the second. That play works again, even though Agassi still had that corner seemingly covered. Agassi watches Courier hit behind him, and he can't get to the ball.
That's an excellent play to use on clay, though, is to wrong foot the player and go back behind him. Once again, it seems that Jim Courier is the one utilizing it more effectively at this point.
Toronto
30-15. Well, the weather conditions have to be a factor in the crowd's seemingly disjointed reaction to this match. You know, they just kind of sitting back and letting the two players do it. And of course, Agassi loves the crowd's reaction and isn't able to feed off it today.
Good football day.
Good approach by Agassi to get to 30 all.
This is exactly the type of point that Andre Agassi should continue playing. He played high percentage tennis, he kept the ball deep, and he came in on his chance. Then there was another bad bounce, and Jim Courier couldn't handle it.
And there's another reason why the crowd is so detached today, and that is that they're saving themselves for Henri Lecomte of France in the other semifinal against Peter Korda. Agassi again charging to the net and has earned a break point.
Well, up to this point, Andre hasn't converted on either of his 2 break points, so this is a big point for him to try to get back in the second set and take control again. Jim very unflappable at this point, completely composed, not happy with that backhand, but certainly prepared for this point.
Got him.
Just cannot afford to miss like that on a break point chance. 2 shots into the rally, to go for that much of a shot was just unnecessary. He played such a fine point just 2 points ago, you would have thought he would have done the same thing, but that just shows you the pressure that he's feeling.
Well, on this Terabad 2, patience is a virtue.
It's certainly not in Andre Agassi's nature to be patient, but as you said, patience is a virtue, especially on clay. And it could really help him if he could use a little bit of it right now. And that's what Jim started doing about a year and a half ago. And look where it's taken him. At the beginning of 1991, he was ranked number 25 in the world. 18 months later, he's a clear number 1.
And on clay, you've got to be thinking 2-3 shots ahead, don't you?
Try to set yourself up.
Agassi not without some chances, but unable to convert, and Courier leads 4-2 in the second set. Andre really hasn't given the crowd a lot to cheer about.
Unforced errors on the break points.
Nor has he gotten into the match emotionally himself. He hasn't allowed the crowd to pick up his energy. He's going to have to start using his own energy to try to wake them up. It's not going to come the other way, I don't think, at this point.
What you're saying is not only that effervescent Agassi that we've seen in the past, which he's toned down since his earlier years, but at this point, the crowd looking for some anger or some kind of gesticulation that says, hey, I want to get back into this. But he's been quite placid.
They want to see a little bit of fire in the belly, as they say, and the French are a very emotional people, and they'll pick up on that immediately. But they're also very knowledgeable about tennis, and they're not impressed right now by Andre. They need to be impressed, and he certainly can do it. But he's got to use a little bit of his own emotional expertise, as they say.
Interesting you'd say that, John, about the French, because Lance Tingay, whom you may remember, who was a writer who finally made the Hall of Fame at Newport for his writing on tennis, felt that this crowd at Roland Garros was the most knowledgeable in the world.
I would say that, and the crowds over at Wimbledon.
He felt even more than his native English.
Imagine a crowd where, let me finish this point after this point.
A late call is out. 30 all. Now the linesman will check.
It's probably the only ticket in the world at Wimbledon where if it rains all day, after having waited 6 months to get a ticket, that you don't get a refund of any kind and don't get the opportunity to come. So I call that world-class fans, to be sure. I don't think they'd stand for that in the United States.
No, they are going to do a little better this year with a form of refund. For the first time. Yeah.
As much as we hope, though, there will not be play on the first Sunday.
Now that may sink in a few years with those guys.
Courier dictating the action. Has a great chance to go up 5-2 in the second.
Well, you talked about Andre Agassi being more prepared than he ever was for the French Open. But I can't compare his preparation to a guy like Jim Courier. He just doesn't look as comfortable out there. He did play a few tournaments on clay, but he just doesn't seem as mentally prepared right now as Jim.
But nobody has in this tournament.
Courier with another break and leads 5-2 in the second. Andre Agassi's coach, it's not only cold the day, his pupil is making it icy as well.
When Nick puts on a coat, you know it's sub-zero.
Temperature in the 50s, a raw northern wind on this Friday in Paris. And Jim Courier serves for a 2-set lead. Courier, who enjoys playing the drums and is quite talented, is laying a pretty good beat of rhythm on his opponent at this stage.
Triple paradiddles.
That's 23 down in the crossword today.
And you got it.
Now I do. Agassi's had a few chances, but Courier's denied.
As bad or maybe even worse than not winning any of the 3 break point opportunities is the fact that he's only won to this point 4 of 16 points on the second serve. And that's really Andre Agassi's strong suit.
Six 6-3. Courier took the first set. 5-2, 15 all here in the second.
Courier felt that this shot that Andre hit was just a bit wide, but just to make sure, he decided to hit a winner down the line anyway. And then go up and look at the mark as if he already knew it was out. That's confidence.
2 points from the set and a 2-set advantage.
Well, he really seems to be taking control of this match, and unless Andre does something real soon, this match could be over in 30 minutes. I suspect he will. I know this means too much to him to let it slip away at this way, but he's certainly gotten himself in a major hole.
First ball.
You just get the feeling that that Andre's really feeling Jim's confidence. that is permeating throughout the court. And he just can't seem to get himself over this hump and get confident himself.
It's like the road team doing so well that despite a boisterous home crowd, they just shut them up because you're so much in command.
Well, another interesting shot that Jim Courier has utilized is his short slice backhand. This time he didn't get away with it, but he's really confusing Andre with that shot. Andre's not sure what to do to. Here's the short slice backhand. Well, we thought it was a short slice backhand.
Well, it could have been some other.
It could have been. Yeah.
Second set point.
As Helen Reddy said, I believe it's too late, baby, now. Or was it Carole King?
And the set to Jim Courier. 6-3 in the first set. He wins the second 6-2. In an hour and 24 minutes, he's a set away from the finals. With John McEnroe and Bud Collins, Dick Enberg, we go to set 3. Jim Courier, the champion on a winning streak of 21 in a row, the #1 player in the world, against Andre Agassi, his longtime friend, nemesis. Agassi always the star in the earlier years, and now Courier, as they're in their young 20s, has captured the world spotlight as the best and has a 2-set lead.
And Jim is carrying himself like #1 more every day.
Better believe it, Bud. And Andre's feeling it right now. He just doesn't seem to know what to do at this point. He's gone back to his basic instincts, which is to try to go for a lot and win easy points. And that's not going to get the job done against Jim Courier now. It may have back when they were juniors, but this is a different league.
Did you use self-anger a lot in this situation? And when you found yourself really desperate and we saw you go into an emotional fit, was that part just to try to get yourself going and the crowd too? Beautifully done again by Courier.
Dick, I try to get myself into the match and fire myself up, and hopefully by doing so get the crowd into it. Not necessarily to direct it at some umpire, but to try to get angry with myself. If people see that you're giving 100%, they're more apt to get behind you.
Sprays that one well wide, and here's Courier with a 2-set lead, and in the first service game of the 3rd set, 2 chances to jump in front again.
You know what's difficult for Andre Agassi now is that he just doesn't feel like he has anywhere to hide now.
Game to Courier. He's broken Agassi early in the 3rd, up 2 sets. Back at center court, Roland Garros, a battle of young Americans, Jim Courier and Andre Agassi. And the fight belongs to Courier. He's won 2 sets and has an early break in the 3rd. Dade City, Florida redhead, ready to go. 1 love in the 3rd.
The Pasco Pirate.
Celery country.
Pasco High School.
Kansas Center.
Oh, boy.
3rd ace for Courier.
What's interesting is that talking to Andre before the match, he seemed so excited about it. And he felt like he had such a game plan. He was so ready to play. He talked for quite a long time about the history of their head-to-head matchups. And here we are now. It just seems like he's not into the match right now. That shows you how strong Jim Courier is.
as you say, there's not much thought behind the approach to the net for Andre.
It looked to me, though this was a reasonable enough approach shot, that he didn't really, it was more just to sort of get it in. He gave Jim an opportunity to do what he wanted with that pass. And now Jim is basically just trying to play high percentage tennis, exactly what he needs to do to win. And the snowball's getting bigger and bigger as we go along.
Andre doesn't seem to realize there is time.
He really doesn't. And here's another example of coming in off the serve. He hits a reasonable enough volley, but he's playing Jim Courier right now. He can't get away with these plays.
You can't beg for the unforced error. He's the #1 man in the world, Courier. Courier on a string of winning 15 of the last 18 points. And he holds it love, leads 2-love in the third set.
Courier
It's interesting that in their youth, Courier couldn't beat Agassi. They were there at the Bollettieri Academy, 14-15. Didn't beat Agassi in competition until the National Juniors in Kalamazoo as a 16-year-old. And then Agassi, as a young professional, again was dominant. Boy, Courier exploding on the scene, and it all started here in France a year ago.
Well, if you're planning something as a young kid, that would certainly be the way to do it. Try to peak in the juniors and then bring it on with you into the pros.
Actually, Bob, you should say it began a couple of years ago when he beat him in, what, 89, wasn't it?
Court 1. 89, third round. And what a stunner that was, because Agassi had been a semifinalist the year before, and everybody gave him a shot at the title. And Courier, who was known to very few people, just came out and bombed him with forehands.
Sounded like he broke a string and hit the baseline. That's when everything's going right. Agassi trying to swallow a smile.
What's interesting when I talked with Andre last night is he talked so much about the game plan that he was going to use against Jim. And part of it was to make Jim hit a lot of balls and make him feel like he was there every point. Maybe he thinks that by coming in and Jim hitting winners, that's what part of his game plan was. I think he's totally gotten away from what he talked about last night, personally.
First smash he's missed.
Agassi has lost the last 5 games.
It's certainly easy to sit up here and talk about game plans. When you're playing a steamroll like Jim Courier, it's pretty difficult to think forward. Those glasses are turning black right now.
Gil Reyes.
Gil doesn't look too happy either.
Strength coach.
Their glove fits the weather.
If he could somehow get the crowd into this, work his way and just take it one step at a time, maybe get one break of serve, which he hasn't gotten the entire match, maybe he can turn this thing around.
Or maybe even some rain, which helped Courier a year ago. Overcast day, rain definitely in the forecast. It was mist this morning. Perhaps that accounts for the heaviness of the court, but no rain.
It just seems like he's got himself caught in this trap now. He just doesn't seem to be able to do what he said he was going to do. Now, what can you say? Could you blame Andre for not going with his game plan, or you give credit to Courier for doing what he's doing so well?
On the sideline, an ace for Agassi, his first of the match.
I tend to give credit to Courier here.
I think you're seeing the best that Jim Courier's ever played up to this point.
Ever in our opening tease for this match, Jim Courier made the comment that the best Agassi has not met the best Courier yet. Part of that may be true today. Agassi meeting the best of Courier.
Well, he's certainly meeting the best mental part of Courier, that's for sure. It's really out there. We can feel it up here in the booth. There you see just a high percentage play on Courier, and now it doesn't seem like Andre's covering the net as well.
He just is the picture of relaxed confidence. Body language so positive from that end of the court.
When I was I'm sorry, but when I was referring to the best that I've ever seen in Courier, that's the part that I was referring to, the part that you had just referred to. Not necessarily that he may have thought he played a better tennis match at other given times in this year, for example.
Now Agassi denies another break chance for Courier. He holds. It's 2-1 in the third. The French Open presented by Diet Coke. Well, the man with a French surname, Jim Courier, 6'3", 6'2", serves with a 2-1 lead in the third. That's the tribunal across the way for all of the top tennis officials.
I keep looking for some U.S. Tennis Association officials. 2 Americans playing a rare event.
Maybe they don't know they're playing today.
Might not have seen the schedule.
Well, this is really the type of point that Andre needs to play on a consistent basis. He took his time, he waited for his opportunity, and when he got it right here, he pounced on it. What's interesting about that picture we just showed is that if people don't realize this, that's right behind the court where the players are playing, and they really see it. I think it's really disconcerting to both players when the stands are empty 2 sets into a semifinal match.
They'll be full in about an hour or so when Henri Lecointe is playing.
It's just really disappointing to the players.
All right, here's a love 30 for Agassi. Down a break in the third set.
This is where he's got to use all that emotion that he's got locked up inside of him. Take advantage of it right now. Love 30 is a big chance for him to get back in this game. I think if he's able to break here, he could really get the momentum and the crowd interest on his side.
Set. Courier has run off 11 of 14 games. broken Agassi 4 times in the match, has not been broken himself. Agassi with 3 chances quickly disappeared as Courier just picks up his game. Because of his size, some think of Jim Courier as not being agile, but he showed there he can change directions.
He's very underrated in that regard. He's one of the quickest players on the circuit. Look how well he reacts, but how well a shot he hits there. That's the other part that people don't realize. Actually, but I do see an old pal of mine from the USTA, Gordon Jorgensen, and his lovely wife sitting up there trying to get these 2 players.
And I do see Bob Cookson, the president of the USTA, with his wife Betty.
Oh, so we've been
very
proven
bundled
wrong.
up. So
We've been proven
they are
wrong.
here.
30 all. Courier serving 2-1 in the 3rd, up 2 sets.
Do you see these 2 guys, Agassi and Courier, as the singles lineup against Sweden in the Davis Cup semifinal in September, John?
I do, Bud. I see these 2 players as 2 excellent choices to represent us in September against Sweden. That's probably one of the other reasons why these Davis Cup officials are here, just to hope that they will play, because it'd be great to get the Davis Cup back again. You certainly can't forget what Michael Chang did in 1990 for us, coming back from 2 sets to love down in a quarterfinal match against Austria, which helped us win the Davis Cup for the first time in 8 years.
Defensive lobs from Courier to keep the point alive, and then Agassi with the air, and Jim Courier leads 3-1 in the 3rd. Time and the score running out on Andre Agassi.
What we just saw a minute ago was just an incredible defensive point by Jim Courier. 2 great gets in that point.
Well, they're 2 sluggers, 2 fighters, but Agassi's been taking all the punches. Courier beating him to the punch throughout this match and has 10 more winners.
When we talk about Courier assuming this mantle of #1, he really didn't want it at first. Perhaps he wanted it, but his coach Jose Garris said he was really scared when he became #1. He lost it quickly, but then got very solid of mind.
But I think it was a blessing in disguise that he did lose that mantle for a couple months. It allowed him to take a step back, to realize that, hey, that is something that he really wants, and that he had another opportunity to prepare for that, where he really didn't feel like he had a chance to prepare for it. It came on so suddenly, in such a short period of time for him. He lost a couple close matches over in Europe after he had won the Australian Open. He had an incredible match with Boris Becker in the finals of Brussels.
Baseline twice.
Toronto.
He suffered a very close loss to Goran Ivanisevic on a fast indoor court in Stuttgart. Went through a spell of about 5 tournaments where he didn't win one, but since then he's bounced back with 3 straight tournament wins.
Yeah, they mentioned Courier did that, being #1 and all the success of the last year and all the endorsements and the opportunity for huge sums of money to be earned, that his mind wandered. He started to think business instead of tennis, and he said, hey, I had to think tennis first, the business comes.
I think he realized that if he became #1 and stayed there, that the least of his worries would be the money aspect of it. What I like about what Jim Courier has done since becoming #1 is, if anything, he seems to be working harder since he became there, and that's got to be admired.
Agassi battling to stay in this 3rd set, down 2 sets, down 1-3. Seems to be going to struggle every service game, Andre Agassi.
It looks to me like the Davis Cup for a number of years, and the Olympics as well, is going to be a very exciting time for American tennis.
Avantage, Courier.
The variety we have at the top level with Michael Chang, Andre Agassi, Jim Courier, and also Pete Sampras bodes quite well for our chances in the next 5 to 10 years.
See, Agassi is the oldest of the group, and he's only 22. Courier has broken him again, and now leads 4-1, 2 games from the finals. Very much in command, the defending champion Jim Courier, 3-2. He wins the first 2 sets and up 2 breaks now in the 3rd, serving 4-1.
What's incredible now is how many people are walking around, and Andre Agassi is not even stopping them to wait till they settle down.
That was an unusual approach, almost as if he wanted to drop shot and then took a swipe at it.
Well, I wish Andre had a sense of history here, because it's certainly going to rain. A downpour is imminent, and if he can just keep it going and get back to the locker room as Courier did last year, trailing a set in 3-1.
Courier on a run of 13 out of the last 16 games.
He just doesn't seem to be able to now to handle that short ball, that short slice backhand that Jim's been hitting.
In the tribunal, front row left, Bob Cookson, president of the U.S. Tennis Association. His wife, Betty. Behind him, Bumpy Fraser, and his wife, Jo. Bumpy will be the next president of the USTA.
Wearing gloves, overcoats, sweaters. Testimony to the coldest day of this fortnight in Paris. Had plenty of rain, but nothing quite this chilly. No one is more uncomfortable in this cold than the young 22-year-old in the near court, Andre Agassi.
This has just become totally one-sided, Dick. I really wouldn't have guessed that it would have been this one-sided. I did pick Jim Courier to win this match, but I really didn't expect it to be this one-sided.
In the second match today, Henri Leconte of France, who got into the tournament on a wild card. He's 200th in the world, but of course much more talented than that, against Peter Korda of Czechoslovakia. There's the winner on the service return, 40-15.
And Korda is talented too.
Two extremely talented left-handers. It's going to be real fun to watch.
And we'll have the result of that match before we leave the air today.
I'm picking Korda in that match, although I think Henri is, as we all know, will have all the crowd behind him.
I think you're right, Jim.
Off the line, Courier, I don't think so. 40-30.
But Henri Leconte owes us, I'll tell you that, John. 1988, he got into the final, serve for the first set at 5-4 against Mats Wilander and totally collapsed. We had a really brilliant telecast.
It was fast.
Oh.
Well, it's similar to this match in the sense that it didn't seem, in that case as well, that mentally Wilander was so tough that Leconte just didn't feel like he couldn't handle it. And you sense the same thing right now in this match. Andre started off well enough, had his chances early on, but since 3-all, it's been completely one-sided.
Game to Courier. 5-1 in the third.
Courier mène par 5 shots à 1.
Jim Courier confirming his status as the #1 player in the world. A game away from earning a spot in the finals on Sunday. Cafe and Croissant live from Paris, 9 o'clock Eastern Time here at NBC. A loose forehand from Agassi. He's had a few of those.
This performance can only be explained by the fact that he just doesn't really have the confidence in his game at this point.
That was a good old-fashioned Solly slop. You remember that shot, John? Harold Solomon used to roll it over there on that angle from the back end.
You wouldn't know it by that previous point that he just played. It looked like a very confident point, but I think some of the preparation that he used before this event was just not enough.
The weight of not winning a major, a Grand Slam title. He's been in 3 finals, 2 here in France, the U.S. Open, unable to come away with a big trophy. And it'll happen for Agassi, but each time he's denied in one of these Grand Slam events, it's going to be felt emotionally. And from about the minute the second set on, Agassi just has played as if he's admitting defeat, although he gets to 40-15 here to try to force the extension of this match and make Courier serve it out.
It's come out during the tournament. Pete Sampras said, I really think it bugs Andre not to have won a major. And Andre said, it's terribly ironic that I haven't won it and Sampras and Chang and Courier have. And he said, it doesn't really bother me, but it's ironic with my talent.
Oh! Just to remind Agassi and the tennis world that that big forehand is still loaded.
Here's a second serve by Andre, and look at this. That's just monstrous. Well, if he expects to win it on talent alone, I think he's in for a long career if he's expecting to win a lot of majors. I think that what's interesting is before the tournament, Nick Bollettieri, who we see here, and Andre discussed about how they wanted to let Andre get get him back to where he was before. Just practice less, do what he felt more comfortable doing. I do think there's something to be said about that. At the same time, when you look at it, how hard a Jim Courier works, or a Michael Chang, or a Stefan Edberg, that he's got to realize that he's got to put in his time. He's got to prepare better. He's got to rest at the proper times. He needs to have a proper diet. He's always talked about how much he loves to go eat at McDonald's and Taco Bell. And I'm not trying to promote any of these things because I don't believe in them.
So Agassi holds. Jim Courier, when we return, will be serving for the finals, presented by Diet Coke. We saw at the start of the telecast Jim Courier marching in behind Agassi, but he stands alone out in front of the entire world pack. From Dade City, Florida, Jim Courier, 4 points away from his 22nd consecutive win this year, and Andre Agassi has been humbled in defeat to this point. 6-3, 6-2. Courier serves 5-2. And his 5th double fault.
You were talking about the baseball caps earlier, Bud, and asked if Andre was inspired by the cap I was wearing. Well, I think Jim Courier has to take credit for that. A couple years back, or I think it was last year, when he was playing Magnus Larsson of Sweden in the 3rd round, which was a 5-set match, he started to wear the hat and hasn't taken it off since.
Different hat, though.
What's interesting now is there must be 50 other players doing the same thing, me being one of them at times. Here you see Courier patiently waiting for that chance and putting away yet another forehand.
Well, as a former baseball player, 7 years, he really was a serious player. Said had he not gone into tennis, he thought he could have been a collegian, maybe a pro. He must feel comfortable. He was a left-handed hitting shortstop in his youth.
What's interesting, obviously there's no sun out, so he's obviously wearing it because he feels more comfortable in it than he does without playing with it. I'm not quite sure why Andre's decided to wear the hat, though.
I think it's huge, man. Good doubles.
It's too bad we're not in then. Still. Too bad we're not playing the finals tomorrow against my friends Jacob Lassick and Mark Rousset of Switzerland. Who may very well be our opponents in the final of the Davis Cup if we get by them after Sweden in September.
Jose Higueras, Brad Stein. Watch their protege Jim Courier now at match point. Very, very impressive on this semifinal Friday.
As the rain begins to fall.
Hang on, Andre. That rain might come.
But with the rain comes another error from Agassi. Jim Courier, much the best in this semifinal test, and he sends a souvenir ball high into the stands. Courier 6-3, 6-2, 6-2. The defending champion will have an opportunity to win another French title on Sunday. Jim Courier through to the finals. When we come back, an interview with Courier, as well as a look ahead to tomorrow's women's final here at the French Open, when Monica Seles will meet Steffi Graf. The top 2 players in the world have advanced to this Grand Slam title. That's all coming up from Paris right after this. On a champion's roll, Jim Courier, 22 straight victories. An impressive straight sets victory today over Andre Agassi, 6-3, 6-2, 6-2. An old Woodhouse thrashing given to his former roommate Agassi by Jim Courier. He hit the long ball, and he's now with Bud Collins.
Thanks, Dick. Jim, congratulations on this victory. The day was cold. You've got a cold, but you weren't cold.
No, I was fairly warm out there after the first couple of games.
How can we judge that match? How well did you play, do you feel, and how well did Andre play?
Well, I have to say that, I don't know how much better I can play than that as far as the ratio of unforced errors to winners. I really didn't make didn't give him too many free points, and I really covered a lot of ground out there, and I felt that a big thing for me out there was I got some free points on my serve, and I tried to prevent him from getting any. I let him get a few, but I tried to mostly get back into the points.
Historically speaking, you can't get anywhere in Paris unless you play and beat Andre Agassi.
4 years running now, right?
And he beat you once.
That's right.
Let's go back 1 year, 12 months. Courier a year ago, Agassi a year ago, compared to today.
Well, I certainly feel that I'm playing at another level than that. I think that mentally I'm at another level, just more relaxed out there on the court, and I've been there before, and I'm really not, don't feel too nervous out there, honestly, which last year I was, and I feel that I'm playing everything better. Andre, today wasn't his day. He didn't play certainly as well as he's capable of playing, but I like to think that part of that is due to the way I played.
Into the final for the second straight year. What are you thinking about in that match?
Well, I'm really happy.
You're going to play a left-hander.
Right, and I'm happy with the way I'm playing, and I've said it before, when I'm playing well, I'll go out there and take my chances with anybody, and, if they play well enough to beat me when I'm playing well, then my hat goes off to them, because that's, I'll just go out there and do the best I can, and come off the court with my head up, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you haven't thrown your hat away yet this year, but I want to know, you come in here last year for the final.
Yeah.
You're not the champion. Now you come into this ballpark, 17,000 people, you are the champion.
Right.
What is the difference in feeling?
There's really, I guess there's not a whole lot of difference in feeling for me out there. Maybe the crowds, don't want me to win as much because I'm not the underdog anymore, but really, it doesn't affect the way I play out there. I'm just going out there and doing my job and, doing as best as I can and not really worrying about, the peripheral stuff.
Jim, I wish you well.
Thank you,
I'll
bud.
talk to you again after the final. Dick?
All right, congratulations to Jim Courier. We'll get the reaction of Andre Agassi when we return, and also a look ahead to tomorrow's final and the comments of Chris Evert, 7 times the French champion. Back in Paris, match point semifinals. Jim Courier completing a straight sets victory over Andre Agassi. 9 career meetings between Courier and Agassi, and this was the most lopsided result. Agassi managing only 7 games. So Agassi's hopes of a Grand Slam title placed again on hold, as in any good spanking, Agassi has much to assimilate, and he's with Bud Collins.
Thank you, Dick. Andre, I know you won't feel congratulated to get to the semifinals. On the other hand, it's not a bad spot, the last 4. But how are you feeling right now about Andre Agassi and the French Open?
Well, believe it or not too bad. I think I'm leaving here with a lot less questions than I came here with. I showed up here with a few doubts, wondering how things were going to be, and I felt like I hung through the pressure of having to, defend the getting to the finals last year, and I felt like I played well, and, I run into a guy who played a little better, so it's hard to feel bad about it.
If not for Jim Courier, you might have won this thing a couple of times. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, well, that goes unsaid, really. I mean, I've lost him twice in 2 important matches, but last year it was harder to accept, I think, because it was a little more kind of things just rolled his way.
5 sets.
Yeah, a little luck involved there towards the end, and this year it's hard to feel, the same way about it because I felt like he just played better, and, it's easier to accept.
Have you seen him play as well?
No, I have not seen him play better. I wish I would have capitalized on a few opportunities out there to really see, how much more he had in him as far as digging out those tough points.
Did you get a little desperate there at the end?
I wouldn't say desperate as much as just like any athlete does when things aren't going its way. That he tries things to make it different, tries different tactics, different strategies, and that's what I was doing. I was trying to come in a little bit. I was trying to loop. I was trying to hit low and flat. I was trying to, serve big serves, trying to kick him in, and if he was just answering it. He was there today. He was ready for the challenge and played well.
Your careers have been intertwined since being roommates at Nick Bollettieri's. How do you feel his career and yours have differed?
I think we're differed even since an early age. We've always had two really kind of extreme personalities. I think he's always been a little on the conservative side, a little on the hard work side, the discipline side, and I've always been on the fun side. Just do what I do because that's what I do type thing. And so we've been different that way. And I think you've seen his dedication pay off. And if anything, it's an indication to me. And now I've known it for a while, but I think he's a good example now for me to start adding things in my game, start making myself a little bit more maybe add another dimension in my game, and I think he's done that. So we've differed in the sense that he's come to terms with what really is going to make him tick out there on the court, and I haven't yet. So
Do you feel you've lost ground?
I did up to this point, but no, this tournament has made me has reassured me of where I am, and if anything, I'm not worried about what has happened this year. I'm only looking forward, and I think I'm going to look back at the end of this year and really say this was a turning point for me. I really believe that.
Will we see you on the lawn at the Big W again?
I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be there ready to play.
Thank you, Andre, very much.
Thank you, bud.
Andre Agassi and Jim Courier, longtime rivals and friends. It was all Courier